What's up, everybody? It is Friday, and you know what that means. We had today, which is actually Monday, off, so we are talking to you from the past. Got a first look at Mortal Kombat, so me and Spinny G are going to be talking a little bit about that. And we're also going to talk about, you can't think about Mortal Kombat and ripping spines without, talking about your favorite violent, gory movies. So it's a Spencer Joe universe, and that's what we're going to get into. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Hey, man, it's a Spencer Joe universe indeed. Y'all are just living in it.
So we got our first look at Mortal Kombat. Entertainment Weekly had this, some exclusives. They had some pictures. They had an interview with the director and the lead, Louis Tan, sort of talking a little bit about premise and tone. And overall, before we sort of jump into it, it sounds, I think it's going to be the perfect amount of absurd.
When you have ice ninjas and also ninjas from hell who breathe fire, you have to have some element of the absurd. Otherwise, you're going to look real stupid.
Yeah, we'll start getting into it. But I'm just listening to them. I'm like, okay, I think the balance is there that this is fun and not annihilation. I think I just got that optimism in me. Let's talk about some of this a little bit. So, Entertainment Weekly dropped a ton of first look info on the movie. Director Simon McCoy, for instance, says the Kunai blade is the MacGuffin. That's the signature weapon.
The get over here.
Yeah, that's the get over here. So the get over here is sort of the center of this movie. It seems like Hanzo Hasashi, who's played by Logan in Twilight Samurai Star, Hiroki Sanada is playing Scorpion. The movie is actually going to kick off with the origin of the blood feud between him and the Baihan Sub-Zero's clans, well before they had their powers. He's being played by Warrior's Joe Talsum, so I'm so stoked about that. If you've seen one fight scene from Warrior, you should be absolutely stoked for what he can do. He's sort of like the bad guy lead in Warrior. And between that and the main lead from Warrior is playing Storm Shadow in the Snake Eyes movie. So I'm
God, you want people to watch Warrior so bad, Joe. I want them to
watch it so bad, Spencer.
You never miss the chance.
I absolutely never. I'm going to single-handedly get this show a third season if it kills me. But enough about that. Back to Mortal Kombat. So it's produced by Todd Garner and James Wan. Again, kicks off with this big fight sequence. It's like a big 10-minute really violent hand-to-hand combat sequence, which is then going to carry over to the present, where they're doing a new character thing. They're going to walk us into the world with a new character, Spencer. This guy Cole Young, who's played by Louis Tan, of course, from Wu Assassins and Into the Badlands. And here's the ridiculous bit of premise that I'm like, this sounds stupid in the best way. They all have mysterious Mortal Kombat shaped birthmarks. And that's so dumb, and in the best way, no shade. I love that idea so much.
Now, is it the dragon logo, or does it say Mortal Kombat?
It's actually the character select screen. So I honestly love that idea. That's how you get everybody to Raiden's Island to train for this.
You have the Mark II, and it's just the guy that pops out and says toasty when you uppercut someone.
The toasty guy. So I legitimately, that's the right amount of cheese needed for me to watch the Spine Rip movie. That's why I've kind of got a good feeling about it. They are, the big takeaway here is obviously they're promising a ton of blood. A ton of really brutal fatalities, familiar ones from the game, and a lot of new stuff, a ton of Easter eggs and references and nods. But they're also promising that they have demanded of their fight choreographers the best fights ever put on film.
Yes.
And so, give that to me.
That's what popped out to me is that, you seem pretty hung up on the premise and the tone, and none of that matters if you can't get the fights right. And that's why I still really enjoy Mortal Kombat 1. I think that the Scorpion Johnny Cage fight is actually an incredible action scene that still holds up to this day. And there's also some stupid CGI and prosthetic work as well throughout that, and a corny plot. But I kind of don't care because it's an action movie about a fighting tournament, a la Bloodsport, the inspiration for Mortal Kombat. And if you can't get the martial arts right, why even bother with the rest of it?
Why even bother? No, I think you're exactly right. And I think the reason why I'm excited about this premise and why I keep harking on about it is, the grand failure of the original Street Fighter movie was they decided it needed a story. And that was a stupid idea. And even the first Mortal Kombat movie decided it needed a story, like a little too much story. And this one seems like they're like, nah, man, they all got tattoos. They go to the island, they fight.
Well, yeah, I mean, the problem, though, maybe I disagree a little bit there because to me, the issue with the Street Fighter movie, of which there were many, is that they felt the need to balance, to overstuff it with every character from the game. Yes. Ostensibly, Guile is like the main character of that, but he's got his issues. And they're also following Ryu and Ken along, and they have this whole Blanca subplot and stuff like that.
And you can't have a Fighter movie without T-Hawk.
Everyone's favorite Street Fighter, T-Hawk and DJ. No disrespect, but come on. I worry that it's interesting that Mortal Kombat could be avoiding that trap, or they could fall into the same one by trying to thank you. Thank you for that image. Victory pose. By having feeling the need to include the entire roster. It's tough to tell a story if it's about Sub-Zero and Scorpion's feud. Then how are you going to juggle this new guy? First of all, I also doubt that this is a new character. I think that they're going to kind of
he's
this
Kung
will
Lao.
be this Kung Lao, as they said, is in it. This will be someone else. Reptile, Shang Tsung. I don't know. This is going to be somebody by the end of it. Even one of the lame ones like Stryker. So this is like this is the problem with ensemble movies, is balancing an ensemble cast. So yeah, it's tough to tell a story about 8 people at the same time, or 12 or 24 or whatever.
Well, I think the I don't know, the yin to an ensemble movie's yang is that I hope they're not worried about fans being like, Kano needs to get his due. Like, it's Mortal Kombat, so some of these people just need to get murked immediately. Like, Kano needs to walk on set and Sonya Blade thighs him to death.
Yep.
Just instantly. Some of these people have got to go because it's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and that's where you can get in, like, you can focus on the original, I think it is 8-person roster, get a little more due, but then you can add in your noob Cybots, your Smokes, your Cyrexes, and they can just get instantly torn to pieces, because there are enough characters to just turn into giblets, and you can always bring them back with a magic wish in the sequel if you want to see more of them.
Well, and talking about the fighting, it seems like I don't know, like I also love the first one. I think we share a strong love for the first one. But there was also like that feeling of they were trying to make a video game movie and not a martial arts movie. And this definitely feels like they're trying to make a martial arts movie with, from the casting to the people they have working behind the camera. They're trying to make a martial arts movie first, which, you mentioned Bloodsport. Like, this feels like modern Bloodsport made manifest for us. Maybe this could be the next generation's, Jean-Claude doing the splits and doing a dim mock.
It could be. And yeah, I am very curious what the new central character's story will be and what their fighting style is. If they truly aren't drawing on the games at all, that seems odd. That seems like an odd choice, but maybe they're hoping that this could be some outsider way into the Mortal Kombat mythos, which I hope is incredibly streamlined, because if they're actually following the games, it is incredibly baroque and goth and weird and sort of dumb.
Yes. The small change that I noticed that popped out is they're calling it Outerland. So it seems like there's some weird cosmetic changes, although that one's funny to me, that there was a hang up that someone in the scripting stage was like, Outland is too bizarre.
That's weird.
Maybe it was an Entertainment Weekly typo. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it does. I think you're right. If they throw even if they throw too much at us at once, it's like, okay. Like,
it's a one-on-one fighting tournament for the fate of the universe.
That's because even Mortal Kombat Annihilation is nothing but problems. But Mortal Kombat, but the biggest of which, or my favorite of which, let's say my favorite problem of which, in the first 30 seconds, they introduce the other 80% of the game.
Yeah, they all just pop out. And then they all get in a weird hamster ball transportation system.
Which had better be in this movie.
A nod to it, yeah.
At least a nod to it. But yeah, I'm excited about this. I like everybody involved. I love that movies like this and projects like this, like Warrior, give these really cool like fighters and stunt people who are all just like oozing charisma, but never really get a chance to show it because they have to, double for I don't know, an A-list actor or whatever whose name escapes me right now. I wanted to say Armie Hammer because it's just in my brain. Also, Armie Hammer should be in this movie because he drinks blood. And that's his fatality.
Allegedly.
Armie Hammer wins. Yeah, man, I'm pretty hyped for this.
Me too. I think that the fatalities will be a fine line to walk as well because you got to keep an R rating and not like an X rating, and B, even the games themselves, like there's a fine line between whoa, that's crazy and gory, and oh, you're doing like a Looney Tunes thing, like you're playing xylophone on someone's rib cage or whatever, which frankly, like I could see both of those working. It's just going to be a balancing act.
Yeah. And look, here's to xylophone on somebody's rib cage, but like in a taunting way, like someone's best friend gets fatality'd and like Scorpion is just like playing chopsticks on their rib cage while the other person gets really mad. I'd be very into that. Speaking of xylophones on rib cages, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. We want to talk about our favorite violent, gory movies. Spencer and I have a few favorites. We were thinking maybe if you need some crazy stuff to tide you over until Mortal Kombat comes out, we each pick some of our favorites for your viewing pleasure. So just to sort of like frame us up, there's a lot of really famous gore. Cannibal Holocaust in 1980 actually got the director arrested in Italy because it was so violent and crazy. They called it a snuff film. Ichi the Killer, kind of dares you to keep watching and is probably the best of the torture porns. I don't know if you'd agree with me.
Audition's up there, but yeah.
Yeah, Audition's definitely up there. The Men Behind the Sun use actual autopsy footage. It's a very upsetting movie. And then Peter Jackson, of course, made Brain Dead, which is incredible if you've never seen it. Brain Dead, the movie that made someone say, let's give that man Lord of the Rings. Logical. So I kind of wanted to set up with some of the more famous ones, and then let's jump into to some of our favorites. Spencer, what's your first favorite?
Yeah, I mean, you do a good service by listing all those other ones that are famous for just the gore itself and like the depravity of it all. Like I've never seen Solo or a Serbian film, but they don't sound like the gore is really in service of anything except for.
There's always going to be like one guy who's like, have you seen a Serbian film? And I'm sure there'll be a few in the comments.
Yes. Congrats to you freak. But I don't know. I guess I won't comment on them because I've never seen them and I never plan on seeing them. But it sounds like those are movies where the gore is the point. But I like movies where the gore is kind of in service to the narrative and in service to setting the tone for the film itself. Which is why I love Green Room was one of the first ones that popped into mind, because that is a film that's all about, they set such a realistic tone that the gore is more affecting than kind of over the top stuff. It's a movie that it's about people trapped in a green room surrounded by white supremacists, if you haven't thought about it or seen it. So it gets you to think about, you're already thinking, what would I do in this situation? How could I escape? What tools are at my disposal? So that when you see somebody's arm get almost cut off and they have to like put it back together with duct tape, it's just so much more affecting because you're feeling like this is real. It puts you in the headspace of what would I really do in this situation. So when gore happens and they don't go over the top, they play it pretty straight, and it's a lot of very intimate box cuttery type violence. You are feeling it more than I think a big horror movie or a big squib filled action movie would affect you.
I'm going to go squib-filled action movie for my first pick. I'm going to go the 2008 Rambo, which, is it a good movie?
Well,
I don't know.
I'm going to stop you there, Joe. I'm going to stop you. I thought that was not squibbed. I thought that was largely my least favorite. Digiblood. I thought that was mostly like the CGI spurts everywhere. They didn't take the time and the care to squib up a million extras.
I think that's fair. I think you're being very fair. They did Digiblood, and I actually, in my thought process, disqualified a lot of things because of Digiblood. A lot of people were like, "Oh man, Expendables is so gory," and I'm like, "No, it's digital blood." But there was just something about Stallone just being like, those people are going to take you and they're going to cut you over and over again. And then like that last like 20 minutes sequence where he's just like with that big like Jeep mounted machine gun just shooting people like from like 5 feet away and just bodies are piling up all around him. I was like, I'm not old enough to see this movie. There's just something about how it's done, because you're right, it is a lot of digital blood, and really they should have had just like, I don't know, like soft CPR dolls rigged to explode, like, full of like corn syrup. Is what they should have done. But there's just something about the way that dead-eyed Stallone approaches it.
Yes, it is a truly, especially the final act, I guess, of that movie is literally just him pulping people with a truck-mounted machine gun, and to like a really comical degree, it's like the UHF parody of Rambo, where he's just.
No, it absolutely is. I mean, in service to the story that I guess he wanted to tell. But it always stands out in my head as like worth watch if you just want to watch something gory and bonkers put on film. I think it's a good one. What's your next one?
Well, I won't leave you hanging because I'll pick a Digiblood one too. This one I think is a mix though. I think there's both. But this is the Japanese film Battle Royale. I hope we've all seen Battle Royale and love it. It's the Hunger Games, but pre-Hunger Games, taken seriously. It's a high school class is what's that? Is randomly selected in a totalitarian state to hunt each other down. Last one or two standing wins. And I think that this is, I guess, like Green Room for me, where the gore, it's more affecting to me. Actually, this is different. It's more affecting to me because they're children, and they are, it's teenagers being forced to kill each other. It's like you can see their innocence being lost, on screen. And they just do such a good job, especially the intro. I always remember the intro of, you have this super cheery orientation video of like basically a mascot being like, you have to go to section 1 or 2 or else your thing will explode. And you have the kids like, what the hell is going on? And their own high school teacher throws a knife like right into one of them's head. And then one of them and when they talk about the exploding collars, they're like, this isn't real, I got to get out of here. And they're playing hot potato with one of their friends, like, because he's going to blow up. It's just like the mixture of comedy and disturbingness that I think just works super well. And then they just create so many inventive scenarios with which to make a mess of everybody else. Running into the girl running into the guy who like made up lies about them hooking up, and she gets to stab him in the penis a bunch of times. The girls who kind of recreate the little domestic bliss scene, but then they end up poisoning each other because, well, last one standing wins, and then they're just retching and shooting, and it's just like a Quentin Tarantino-y standoff, and everybody's dead, and there's blood and stuff everywhere. So I just love that movie's inventiveness. Granted, I do think that a good amount is digital, but I could be wrong. It could be squibs too. So that's a pick for me. Something
about that movie too is that there's this really like magical bit of work going on with like balance and tone, because that should not be a watchable movie.
Yeah.
Just conceptually, like you shouldn't be able to sit through that movie, but somehow they make it work to the point where it's like, it's upsetting in the way that it needs to be upsetting, not upsetting like because of the premise. Does that make sense? There's just it's just presented so well. In the same way that only Tom Hanks can make Big, Only one person could have made a battle royale. Otherwise, it just becomes I don't know, the Serbian film of Hunger Game movies.
Yeah, they pull off a really magic balancing act of gore and comedy and just pure action. So
Yeah,
that's up there for me. Watch it if you haven't seen it. Better than the Hunger Games.
my second pick is going to be 2013's Evil Dead.
2013's Evil Dead.
Yeah,
I've not seen 2013's Evil Dead.
For pure gore. A lot of people didn't like this one because they got very used to, what Evil Dead is famous for. Ash being funny and, groovy and throwing skeletons off frame. And I absolutely adore those movies. And so I can see why it was whiplash for people when someone was like, no, what if we just went full gore and just embraced like that part of Sam Raimi? But hot damn, they go for it. It is bloody and gory. I mean, just oceans of blood used in this film. And I love it. It's fun and horrible. And if you can overlook, the fact that it's not, like as self-aware as and fun as the Evil Dead movies, and instead they're just like, nope, this is just buckets of corn syrup, guts, and death. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's interesting because I love the Evil Dead movies, of course. But they, the over the top gore, it's not it's doubly funny to me because it's so clearly like a bunch of friends goofing around with cameras in the woods. They're not taking it seriously. So I wonder how much I would enjoy a slick Hollywood horror film that didn't feel like Sam Raimi and his buddies doing it.
I'm going to say this one still feels like someone was having fun in the woods.
Okay.
Like this one still feels like, what can we do now? And how ridiculous. Like this one definitely feels like an AD was like, I have an idea. And they were like, yes, let's do that to someone's arm. And rearrange the day so that they could do that. So it still feels fun, not in like that beautiful Evil Dead trilogy kind of spirit necessarily, but I do think you'll dig it.
Yeah. Sweet.
Hey man, what's your next one?
Well, I'm already at my third and final one, but I can come up with more. But my all-time ode to squibdom, the ultimate use of squibs by the squib master himself. Well, I don't know. You could say what's his name, the hard target guy in the. It's Robocop. I love Robocop. I love Verhoeven. I love Robocop. I think that the squibs are so chunky in this movie. And yes, the toxic waste guy, I think, is the best gory scene, quote unquote, or best use of like practical chubs of gore, because he crashes his car and it pays off later. He gets dumped in toxic waste, and then later he wanders out. And Clarence Boddicker hits him with his car and it explodes, and that's what ends the car chase. It's just beautiful. It's poetry. It rhymes. Yeah. And yeah, just the it's just like an exploding rotten turkey on the windshield. I just love it. It's just such a satisfying scene. And that also, the execution basically of Murphy by Boddicker is also just a great grisly 80s kind of grindhouse scene. And the fact that that is all practical, for better or worse. That movie is all practical. So good in the gore scenes, not as good in the model animation of Ed 209 and stuff like that, but that's the price you pay. But every bullet wound feels big and chunky, and when he shoots that rapist in the dick, man, you feel it. It is. They definitely wired that squib to blow, and I think that it's the best action gore, I think, on screen.
It's so and something kind of interesting to me is we were talking about the tones of, say, like the Evil Dead remake versus the original Evil Dead. The original cut of RoboCop, they were like, this is going to be rated X. Like, and so I think it's so cool that he was able to almost like original Evil Dead trilogy style kind of go, okay, how can I recut my movie and use humor to make it a little more palatable and balance it out a little more. And I think that's just one of the cool pieces of why RoboCop is such a perfect movie.
Yeah. Yeah, the balance of satire and just chunks of goo flying at you is perfect.
is unmatched. I feel like all of mine are real basic B's, but honesty's honesty, I guess. My third one, and then we can talk a little bit if you want about one of our Spencer Joe Universe favorites. But my third favorite is Kill Bill Volume 1.
Sure.
I think Tarantino just has a way with gore. He's a huge fan. These are the movies that shaped him. And I remember sitting in the theater watching Kill Bill Volume 1, the Crazy 88 fight. And it's a very stupid sentence, but I remember leaving the theater and just being like, oh, this is how my brother felt when the Star Destroyer went overhead when he saw A New Hope. Because I don't know, I just never really seen anything like that up to that point. And it just keeps escalating and going, and more Crazy 88s keep showing up to the point where they do the wide shot at the end where she's the last woman standing, aside from the guy missing limbs who's just staggering around in the background, trying to find his eye. It's just so fun.
It's great. I love that too, and I would have picked it. I just hesitate because I'm sure that every single thing that you love about it is from some 70s Japanese movie.
Absolutely. But what I think is great is, Quentin Tarantino is a mixtape maker. He's girl talk. He's the girl talk of movies.
Yep.
Look, say what you will about girl talk, but a good girl talk song is a good girl talk song. And the Crazy 88 fight is a really good girl talk song.
Yeah. I think my appetite for mashups has probably waned. But the thing about girl talk is you've heard Thriller and Wake Me Up Before You Go, Girl. Everybody knows those things. It's it's two things I know. Quentin Tarantino is pulling from things that I'm not enough of a cinephile to have watched. I don't know, Lady Snowblood or whatever stuff he's pulling from. So it's all new to me, is what I'm saying. So yeah. I'm sure he's jacked it, but I really liked the stylistic gore he puts throughout that whole all his movies.
There's something to be said about the mix of, I don't know, just to continue our mashup comparison, because I kind of there's something to be said of using Thriller with a rehearsal soundcheck song, AC/DC, never released, and someone found a cassette tape of it. That's how Tarantino pieces that stuff together. And I really dig that one. But really, all of this is an excuse for you and me to talk about The Night Comes for Us a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you told me before the show that you assumed I would pick this, and of course. I mean, yes. Great film. It's really just, if you like the Raid or the Raid 2, I think more so, is more choppy with the knives and such. And yes, this is this if this is to be believed.
It sounded like Woody Allen a little bit. It's it's very choppy with the knives.
Please don't say I sound like Woody Allen.
Sorry.
It
How about Gilbert from Rocko's Modern Life?
There you go. Perfect. Everybody in Indonesia, at least in this universe, owns a machete and knows how to use it, because man, there's a lot of machetes in that movie, and they come flying all over the place. Obviously, that the whatever gore there is in service to these incredible fight scenes where people are flipping and jumping and doing this incredible ballet while they're hacking at each other. But there are buckets of blood in it, and it's very pretty to look at.
Yeah, and just. And like the Raid movies, just continual escalation.
Yeah.
At no point is there really time to breathe. I think every now and then they do a flashback to be like, here's some story. Here's how those guys know each other. And here they are chopping each other up again.
Yeah.
But yeah, super fun. And every fight also somehow feels a little different. The nightclub fight is different than the butcher shop, is different than the car chase.
Then the one at the end where he uses the pool ball thing, the pocket with the pool balls. Man, that's insane. I feel like people are going to be mad that we're too light on horror, and I agree. I'm sure we are. I'm not a huge horror expert, but to me, my favorite horror movies aren't the ones that are typically like the goriest. Obviously, I love like The Thing and stuff with the cool practical effects, and I just don't know enough about it. And also, I'm mostly drawn to like, atmospheric horror or stuff that's more about building up a sense of dread. That's like not just about I've seen most of the Saw, and I've seen all of the Saw movies for the honest trailer, and like it's just nothing after a while. Like it just doesn't stick with you.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing when I was putting the script together, which is actually kind of why I wrote that little preamble. Because I'm the same way. I'm just usually not, unless it's just crazy. Again, like, like Peter Jackson's early stuff, like Raimi's early stuff. Unless like that kind of horror is very fun to me. Let's see how just ridiculous it can get. I really did that stuff, but yeah, like you said, Saw.
If it's used for horror, though, like I don't know, if it's used throughout the whole movie, it eventually loses its impact. Like like The Descent, it's like a crazy, gory, intense horror movie. By the third act, when they're just like swimming in pools of blood, like what I was into the movie is gone at that point, which was the suspense.
Yeah, I'll give you. I love The Descent, but I'll give you. By the time I think you lose some of the terror from just spelunking and the threat of getting stuck, and is some of the best stuff in that movie. So I definitely agree with you there. But yeah, sewing somebody's mouth to somebody's butt. Not
That's just gross, Joe. That's just yucky.
House of a Thousand Corpses. After a while, I really started to roll my eyes and was like, "What? This isn't for me. Like, I don't understand the point. I'm tired."
I missed that one. Is that a Rob Zombie?
Yeah, it's one of the Rob Zombie ones.
Got it.
And no shade if you love those movies. Just for me, after a while, you're like, I could have been done at 450 corpses. You know what I'm saying?
Look, Dragula is still in heavy rotation over here.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No shade.
That's how I swing my kettlebells. Is Dragula. Any other scenes or movies do you feel like we need to give kind of a shout out to before we get out of here?
I don't know. Passion of the Christ.
Yeah.
I got nothing. No, this is we talked about all the ones I was most interested in.
Yeah, same. But although I do agree that maybe Mel Gibson deserves a specialized violence and gore career.
Yeah, Apocalypto. But I do like Apocalypto.
Yeah, from the director's chair with Apocalypto and the Jesus movie, just to the little gore, like getting your fingers broken one by one, like in Payback. Like he sells it good. What I'm saying is I think I don't really want Mel Gibson to do anything anymore. But if he had to do an Evil Dead movie, I'd watch it maybe.
Don't try to judo your way out of this one. Joe Starr supports everything Mel Gibson has ever said or done.
Tweet it. I'm canceled. Let us know in the comments. This is a pure Let's Talk About Movies episode, you guys. So let us know in the comments. What's your favorite violent movies? What's your favorite gory movies? Tell us what you love about them. Talk to each other about movies in them comments. It's why we're here. That and to talk about weird stuff when there's no actual news. Those are the two.
We're on vacation, but we'll see you Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see you Tuesday, and have a good one. Bye, guys.